Here are 10 things you probably missed while playing on Kings Row. Number 10. In the number 10 spot, we have movie and concert posters. These posters include a performance of Lucio in concert, a movie starring Diva called Hero of My Storm, and a movie called Some Like It Bot. For those of you who are fans of 1950s movies, you would recognize this poster as a parody of the 1959 crime comedy film Some Like It Hot, which won numerous awards and even turned into a Broadway show. Another possible Easter egg within this poster is that the name AI Shylus is a reference to the Greek writer Aeschylus, who is credited as the father of tragedy. Number 9. Many of you probably seen the fun arcade game found in the back right corner of the first attacker spawn room. What many people do not know or pay attention to is that the arcade game is called Fighters of the Storm, a parody of a different Blizzard IP called Heroes of the Storm. Unlike other MOBA video games, this one features a number of famous heroes across the different games that Blizzard has created, including Diablo, Warcraft, StarCraft, and Overwatch. You can find Anna, Genji, Diva, and a number of other Overwatch characters as skins within Heroes of the Storm. Number 8. After the first objective has been taken, the payload will go through a small tunnel. When looking up around this area, you can see the iconic Big Ben clock tower. While some of you are probably barking at the screen right now, of course it's Big Ben, we're in London, mate. It took several months for me to notice it as it's not really that big. I mean, take a look at where it is in real life and how large it is. Then look at it from the perspective of the game. If nobody had told you that that was the real Big Ben, would you have thought it was just another clock tower? I know I would have, but that probably says more about me than it does you. Number 7. Perhaps the most iconic part of the Kings Row map is the large golden statue of Mondada the Omnic. If you watch the Widowmaker Alive cinematic, you will recognize Mondada as the Omnic that Widowmaker assassinated, sparking unrest across the city between humans and Omnics. While the statue isn't really that hard to miss, knowing the backstory of why there is a monument in the first place will help you appreciate this next part. Tucked into the corner by the entrance to the Meridian movie theater is a small shrine for Mondada. It is here that Mondada gave his final speech on the front steps before being killed. Considering the only time you explore this little corner of the map is when you have to take cover because the supporters aren't supporting you, you'd be surprised what other details you miss. Rest in peace, big man. Number 6. Very similar to Diagon Alley from Harry Potter, King's Row is full of all kinds of restaurants, shops, and businesses. These include Everly and Sons Brewery, which extends to the unreachable area that takes place during the bonus Underworld PvE mode mission that was released alongside the other PvE missions. I almost considered exploring this part a second time for this video after playing the mission originally, but I'll just go ahead and save you the trouble and say there isn't much detail there. You can also find the Bellfish and Chips, the Fox and Bear Bar, the Hoof and Haunch, Moriarty's Fine Books, Gordon's Positronics, which, if you don't know about, has to do with electronic connectors, aka kind of like what Omnics are made of, so it's no wonder that the front part got vandalized. The Alderworth Hotel, the Ascalon Club, the Meridian Movie Theater, and Spenny Moore Clothers. Perhaps the darkest part of these businesses, however, is that several have a sign out front that state no Omnics allowed, indicating that the British government is openly allowing humans to discriminate against the Omnics. Before we continue, I want to take a second to acknowledge the lack of content on our channel as of recently. Between a several month-long battle with Google AdSense, a change of jobs, and moving to a new apartment, the time and dedication to this channel has faltered for a bit. But just as the mighty phoenix rises from the ashes, Baritone Studios is back and hungrier than ever to create content for you, our beautiful community. So if you could, please help out by liking, commenting, and subscribing. It makes my day to see all the positivity and support in the comments, knowing that even now, we're still helping to bring together an awesome group of people. So with that out of the way, let's continue on. Number 5. Flung across the map on the ground and on tables, we see newspapers featuring pictures of Cassidy and Tracer. During the Uprising comic, we learn that Cassidy is on the ground in King's Row first, gathering intel for Overwatch as the group has been specifically barred from interfering. Despite these orders, Overwatch steps in sometime later, including Tracer on her first mission after graduating into a full member. These two would have been the most likely to make it into the newspaper due to Cassidy being the first member on the ground, as well as Tracer knowing the area well, being from Britain herself. There's also a mention of a global hacking spree happening on the newspaper, which we can most likely attribute to Sombra. Number 4. Within the attacker's first spawn room, there is a tablet and monitor displaying a fantasy mobile game. Just like many of the other breakable objects within Overwatch's spawn rooms, not many people pay close attention to this object. When there is no other distracting noises, voice lines, or music, however, you can hear the soft sound of the mobile game playing. While this isn't exactly an overly exciting Easter egg, it's certainly a cool little detail that not many people have experienced. Number 3. Spread throughout King's Row are numerous spray painted phrases showing the resentment humans have for Omnics, including the phrases only built to serve, blood not circuits, machines have no rights, and others. This is something most people have already seen, but unless you've kept up with all the Overwatch media and lore, the exact details of what happened in London and King's Row is probably not well known. Before the Omnic crisis started, King's Row had a huge Omnic population that built a city under the surface of London. This is represented within the map by the final objective, when the push cart goes through the highly mechanized and industrialized area. The entrance is marked by a large underworld sign, the name for the Omnic city. Because of the large Omnic population, there is a lot of tension between humans and Omnics, especially in wake of protests. 7 years before where the current game takes place, Null Sector launched their first invasion and took London's mayor, Mondada, and many others prisoner. The government forbade Overwatch from intervening, but eventually Overwatch did destroy the Null Sector forces and all mention of the mission was classified, cue the Overwatch Uprising comic. 5 years after Overwatch's full disbandment is when Mondada was assassinated while pushing to improve the rights and living conditions for Omnics. This led to much distrust between the public, resulting in some wanting to take the drastic action of taking out the Omnics using an EMP device. This is where things get real heavy though. When Junkrat is on the attacker's team when playing on King's Row, before the round starts he says this voice line.
So we're delivering a bomb to scrap some bots, and I'm getting paid for it. My kind of job.
So this heavily implies that the attackers are delivering a bomb to destroy the Omnics. When the cart comes out, it confirms this theory as it looks very much like an EMP-shaped bomb. This means that the defenders are literally fighting to save the lives of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Omnics across London, as releasing the EMP device near the reactor thingy-majig at the end of the map in the underworld would be devastating. Or if you're one of the attackers, you get to fight to try and kill hundreds of thousands or millions of Omnics across the city. Afterwards, Null Sector returns a second time, a year after Mondada's assassination or so, and tries to wipe out the Omnics themselves, but Overwatch arrives once again to save the day in the bonus PvE mission. Regardless, it just seems like these Omnics can't catch a break. Number 2. Using the information we just learned, it then seems weird exactly who and why the attacker's first spawn room is set up the way it is. Housed within an empty church, the room appears to be set up as a temporary base, including a sleeping area, a recreation and food area, as well as a simple lab and work area. The problem here is who exactly is working in the lab. All the monitors hold very similar displays to Winston's lab on Gibraltar, with the moniker WNSTN even being found on one of the monitors. There's also not one, but 4 jars of peanut butter spread throughout the lab. It's hard to deny at this point that this temporary base was set up by anybody other than Winston. What makes this confusing though is that the supposed storyline for playing on King's Row is that the attackers are trying to destroy the Omnics using the EMP bomb. Within the London Calling comics, however, we know Winston assists Tracer in trying to save the Omnic underworld at King's Row. So why would the base being actively used by Winston be the same base that is being used by the attackers to destroy the Omnics? That doesn't sound very Overwatch-like to me. And now, before I give number 1, I just wanted to show a cool little bonus fact. Because it's Season 6 in Overwatch 2 and Null Sector has invaded on several maps, if you look up in the sky, you can see a giant Null Sector ship. Ooh. Number 1. At number 1, we have an obscure detail that I can almost guarantee you've never seen or dug into. As I mentioned early on, there are newspapers scattered all around King's Row that include a picture of Cassidy and Tracer. However, there is also a second kind of newspaper floating around. You can see it specifically says in large bold letters, King's Row. But the only other title that isn't blurry or really small says, A Personal Message from Claude Morris. So who is Claude Morris, you may be asking? If you look him up on any of the Overwatch wikis, you'll be disappointed because there's no information. So I took to Google myself and found that Claude Morris is actually a British newspaper owner who lived from January 20th, 1920 to May 21st, 2000. During his career, Morris founded several newspapers and worked with several other publishers. What he is most known for, however, is his work in trying to broker peace between the Arabs and Israelis. For those of you that do not know, the Arab Israeli conflict is still ongoing to this day within the Middle East due to political tension, military conflict, and most importantly, the close proximity that both groups are to each other, as many of their communities are intermingled living together. Why Claude Morris is included in this newspaper many years after his death doesn't make sense in Overwatch's universe. Until you connect the dots that the newspaper publisher is using a quote by Claude Morris to compare the Arab Israeli conflict to the eerily similar situation happening between humans and Omnics. So the next time you play on Kings Row, remember to take a second to visit Moriarty's fine books or admire the fine art found within the Alderworth Hotel. I'm sure your teammates will appreciate it. And with that, thank you all for watching. If you're enjoying this type of content, show your support for Baritone Studios by liking, commenting, and subscribing. It helps let us know you want to see more. You can also support the channel through buymeacoffee.com or by purchasing our merch on Spreadshop. Hats, shirts, stickers, you name it, both links can be found in the description below. With the release of this video, we are also launching the Baritone Studios Discord. Make sure to be one of the first OG members there. It's going to be a fun time. So once again, I'm Evan with Baritone Studios, and I'll see you next time.